Have you ever paused to consider the hidden meaning behind the year you were born? Not the exact date, not the month, but the last number, that final digit that quietly closes the sequence. At first glance it might seem insignificant, just a mathematical formality, a detail in a date that you've written 1,000 times without ever thinking twice. But what if that small number held more than numerical value? What if it carried symbolic weight, a deeper reflection of your psychological energy, your life rhythm, or even your soul's trajectory? Carl Jung, one of the most influential figures in modern psychology, believed that the world wasn't as random as it appeared. He taught that our lives are shaped by invisible patterns, what he called archetypes, universal symbols, and forces that influence our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors from beneath the surface. And these archetypes don't just live in myths or fairy tales. They live in time, in rhythm, in the cycles of nature and history. To Jung, time itself is symbolic. The seasons, the hours, the decades, they all carry psychological tones. The environment we're born into, the energy in the air, even the collective consciousness of the moment, we absorb these things, not consciously, but in our psyche. He believed that when we're born, we're not just entering the world physically, we're entering a symbolic moment, and that moment leaves an imprint. So what does it mean to be born at the end of a certain decade? What tone does the number 3 carry compared to the number 9? And what might the last digit of your birth year whisper about who you are beneath? All the labels, roles, and expectations. This idea may sound mystical at first, but it's not about superstition, it's about symbolic resonance. Jung didn't believe in rigid personality types or one-size-fits-all categories. He believed in meaning. He believed that when we reflect on the symbols that surround us, from our dreams to our birth dates, we can begin to uncover the deeper structure of our being. Let's imagine, just for a moment, that the final digit in your birth year is more than a number, that it represents a frequency, a psychic echo, or an archetypal invitation, and that by understanding this symbolic key, you might gain insight into your patterns, why certain themes keep showing up in your life, why you're drawn to certain people, or why you struggle with the same invisible battles. Sounds strange, maybe. But when we enter Jung's world of symbols, it begins to make perfect sense. The number 0, for instance, doesn't just represent emptiness, it represents potential, cycles, and infinite return. The number 1 is not just a beginning, it's the call to separate, to assert, to lead, and so on. Each digit carries a symbolic vibration, something that shows up again and again across cultures, stories, and even our psychology. Of course, your entire being isn't defined by a single number. Jung would never reduce a human soul to digits, but he might say, pay attention to the pattern, because in that pattern you may find a message from the part of you that's been quietly trying to get your attention your whole life. In this exploration, we're going to look at what each final digit, from 0 to 9, might symbolically represent, and how that energy may subtly shape your psychological landscape. We're not talking about predictions or personality tests. We're talking about self-reflection through the lens of archetypes. We'll walk through each digit slowly and thoughtfully, considering the psychological energy it carries and how that might resonate with your soul's path. But before we begin, a word of caution. This isn't about putting people into boxes. This is about looking into the symbolic mirror and asking, where does this pattern already live in me? What is this symbol inviting me to become? If you're someone who seeks meaning beyond the surface, someone who wants to understand, not just what you do, but why you do it, then stay with us. This journey is for you. It's not about answers, it's about deeper questions. Take a breath, because what you're about to discover might not only shift the way you view your birth year, it might change the way you view your story, your cycles, and your sacred timing. Now, let's step into Jung's symbolic view of time and uncover what the final digit of your birth year might be trying to tell you about who you already are. Carl Jung believed that life is filled with symbols, and that these symbols are not just metaphors or poetic ideas. They are real, active forces in the psyche. When he studied myths, dreams, and even religious rituals, he wasn't looking for fantasy. He was looking for patterns that repeat across centuries, cultures, and human experiences. He believed that the unconscious mind speaks through these patterns, and that when we learn to recognize them, we gain access to a deeper intelligence, an internal compass that has been quietly guiding us all along. Now let's consider something that we often overlook: numbers. We treat numbers as neutral tools, ways to measure things, count things, calculate things. But across ancient cultures, numbers were never just mathematical. They were alive with meaning. Each number was considered to carry a distinct symbolic quality, a personality even. Jung didn't dismiss this. In fact, he believed that numbers had an innate psychological value. In his writings, he explored how numbers appear in dreams and alchemical texts, showing up again and again as symbols of archetypal processes: union, separation, conflict, resolution, transformation. This isn't numerology in the modern fortune-telling sense. Jung wasn't interested in predicting your future by adding up digits. What interested him was something deeper: how numbers can reflect the structure of the psyche, how they can point to energies that live within us, shaping how we move through the world. And if numbers are patterns, then your birth year is more than a historical timestamp. It's a symbolic entry point. The year you were born reflects a collective moment in time, a cultural atmosphere, a generational rhythm. And the final digit of that year, it's like a tone, a subtle vibration, the echo that still hums in the background of your life. Imagine a piece of music. The final note of a phrase sets the tone for the next. That final digit is like that note. It doesn't define the melody, but it gives it direction. It colors the mood. It leaves a residue. And in symbolic thinking, that residue matters. Let's say you were born in 1984. The final digit, 4, has a different feel than, say, someone born in 1989. That 4 might carry a tone of structure, order, grounding, while the 9 might carry energy, of completion, depth, and transition. You've probably felt this in the people around you without realizing it. Some carry a steady, builder-like energy. Others seem to constantly be closing chapters, seeking meaning, or preparing for a leap into the unknown. These aren't coincidences. They're expressions of something deeper. So what does each number mean symbolically? In the next sections, we'll explore that. We'll walk through each of the final digits, 0 through 9, and examine the psychological tone they might carry, not as fixed identities, but as symbolic themes, patterns that may show up in your strengths, your struggles, your relationships, and your inner world. But before we begin, remember, you are more than any number. Jung would never suggest reducing yourself to a formula. Instead, he would invite you to reflect symbolically, to ask, where is this pattern already alive in me? What part of me is shaped by this tone, and how can I bring it into consciousness? This kind of reflection isn't about control, it's about awareness. It's about seeing your life not just as a sequence of random events, but as a journey guided by unseen currents. When we begin to recognize those currents, we don't just float, we navigate. You don't need to believe in magic to believe in meaning, and you don't need to change who you are to understand yourself more deeply. You only need the willingness to listen, to look at the small, overlooked details of your story and ask, what have you been trying to show me all along? Now that we've opened that door, let's step through. In the next part, we begin with the first number, 0. What does it mean to be born into a year that ends with 0? What psychological tone does that digit carry? And what might it reveal about your inner world? Let's begin. Final digit 0, the soul of the beginning and the end. To be born in a year that ends in 0 is to carry a rare and complex vibration. The number 0 is often misunderstood. It looks like nothing, a hollow, an absence, and yet, symbolically, it is one of the most powerful numbers in the world. In ancient spiritual traditions, 0 was not seen as a lack, but as the infinite potential that precedes creation. It is the circle, the seed, the silent space before the first breath. It is the alpha and the omega, the gateway between cycles. 0 does not move forward, it resets. It ends and begins at the same time. In the symbolic language that Carl Jung revered, 0 would be associated with wholeness, the self, and the unconscious totality of the psyche. Jung often described the self as a circle, a unifying center that includes both conscious and unconscious, light and shadow, masculine and feminine, personal and collective. 0 reflects this principle. It doesn't divide, it contains. It doesn't push, it holds. It is the womb of transformation. People born in years ending in 0 may carry a subtle sense of being different, not in an external or obvious way, but inwardly. They often have a deep, unspoken awareness that life is not just about doing, achieving, or performing, but about returning to something essential, something timeless, something true. There is often an inner pull toward completion, integration, or silence. These individuals may feel restless in a world obsessed with progress. They may struggle with the pressure to constantly move forward because their soul doesn't crave linear growth. It craves depth, not more, but meaning. In their relationships, they may be natural listeners, observers, or quiet centers of gravity. Others may come to them for grounding without knowing why. There's a kind of mystery to them, a presence that doesn't shout but resonates. Jung might say they carry the archetype of the sage or the eternal child, the one who sees beyond appearances, who remembers something others have forgotten. But like all archetypes, the energy of 0 has its shadow. Because 0 is connected to emptiness, people born under this tone may sometimes struggle with feelings of void, existential longing, or a subtle sense of not fitting. They may feel like they are between roles, between stages, or even between identities. They may experience cycles of withdrawal, reflection, or disconnection, not because they are broken, but because they are searching for alignment with something they can't quite name. This is not a flaw. It is a signal. The psyche is asking not for distraction, but for depth. The shadow of 0 is not the absence of value. It is the fear that nothing matters. And when this fear goes unexamined, it can lead to spiritual numbness, escapism, or paralysis. But when the soul born under 0 begins to embrace its symbolic nature, something beautiful happens. These individuals become holders of space for themselves, for others, for the world. They are the ones who can pause in a chaotic room and remind everyone what actually matters. They are the ones who speak less but say more, who retreat but return wiser, who begin again, not out of failure but out of a deep understanding that life moves in spirals, not straight lines. If this is you, know this. You were not born to follow a path. You were born to watch for when paths begin and end. You are not here to fill the world with noise. You are here to remember the silence that everything comes from. And though the world may sometimes misunderstand you, your presence is not passive. It is essential. You are the circle in a world of sharp edges, the breath in a world of shouting, the moment of stillness before everything changes. In Jung's language, you carry the symbol of the self, not the ego, not the mask, but the wholeness behind the roles. You are the reminder that nothing is truly lost, only waiting to be returned to. Final digit 1, the flame that dares to begin. To be born in a year that ends in 1 is to carry the symbolic energy of a beginning. Not the quiet potential of 0, but the first spark, the moment when something new breaks away from what came before and dares to move forward alone. In the symbolic language Carl Jung often used, the number 1 represents individuation, separation, and the emergence of the individual will. It is the soul's first step into form, the pioneer archetype, the leader who must forge a path even when the world offers no map. Those born under this digit often carry a strong inner current of autonomy. Even when they seem quiet or reserved, something in them wants to define itself, to make its own way, to say, "This is who I am." They may feel called, sometimes from a young age, to stand apart, to do things differently, to start something no one around them has done before. Jung believed that the path of true selfhood requires a break from the collective, a movement away from inherited beliefs, family roles, and societal expectations. The energy of the number. 1 reflects this exact movement. Not rebellion for its own sake, but a soul-level drive towards self-definition. People with this energetic imprint may be natural initiators. They begin things, ideas, movements, careers, transformations. Their minds may constantly search for what's possible rather than what's expected. They are often driven, original, bold, even when insecure beneath the surface. Their gift is the ability to light a fire where there was none. But as with all archetypes, there is a shadow. The energy of 1, when unconscious, can become isolated, controlling or overly identified with being the first. These individuals may fear dependence or vulnerability. They may push others away to protect their sense of agency. They may also burn out from constantly feeling like they have to make it on their own. Jung would say, this is the ego's inflation, when the ego begins to believe it is the whole self, rather than a part of it. For the person shaped by the energy of 1, the task is to remember, being first doesn't mean going alone. Individuality does not have to be isolation. Leadership does not mean carrying the entire weight of the world. When integrated, the archetype of 1 becomes the initiator, not someone who forces, but someone who inspires. These are the people who open doors, break patterns, say yes. Before others even know what's possible. They are not here to follow. They are here to begin, and not just for themselves, but for others who need to see that it can be done. So if you were born in a year, ending in 1, reflect on this. You are not here to repeat. You are here to create. Your life is not about being right. It's about being real. Not perfect, but true. To yourself, and as you walk your own path, you show others that it's safe to leave the one they were told to follow. Final digit 2, the soul that feels in pairs. To be born in a year ending in 2 is to carry the energy of relationship, duality, and connection. Where the number one seeks to separate and define itself, the number two instinctively moves toward balance, reflection, and union. It is not about me, but about we. It is the place where the soul begins to see itself through the other. In a Jungian language, this number resonates strongly with the archetype of the mediator or the lover, the one whose soul cannot rest in isolation. There is a deep emotional intelligence in those born under this digit, a sensitivity to tone, to feeling, to what is unspoken between people. They often feel the emotional temperature of a room before anyone else even notices it changed. People with this imprint may have an early awareness of how others feel, often even more than they understand their own emotions. As children, they may have adapted quickly to meet the expectations of parents, friends, or teachers. Harmony mattered, connection mattered, and this pattern may continue into adulthood, the drive to keep peace, to avoid conflict, to make others feel understood, even when it costs them their own voice. Carl Jung spoke of the anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine energies within each of us. Those born under the tone of 2 often carry a heightened sensitivity to this inner polarity. They may spend much of their lives seeking emotional reunion, both within and without. The desire to be fully seen, fully held, to find the one who matches in their depth. But the shadow of this archetype is self-forgetting. In trying to connect, they may disconnect from themselves. They may become so attuned to others that they lose track of their own needs. Their empathy, though beautiful, can become a form of abandonment. If it always flows outward and never inward, Jung would say, the task is not to escape the pain of being 2, but to embrace the wholeness that exists in the tension between self and other. For people with the 2 vibration, the work is not just to love, but to learn to receive love without needing to earn it. When this archetype is integrated, the person becomes a bridge, a healer of relationships, a soul who sees both sides, not to avoid taking a stand, but to remind others of what they share. These are the diplomats, the poets, the counselors, the artists of emotion. They bring people together, not with force, but with presence. If you were born in a year ending in 2, you are not weak for feeling deeply. You are not too much for needing connection. Your heart is not a flaw, it is your compass. Just remember to point it inward sometimes, to listen to your own pulse, even when it contradicts the harmony around you. You are not here to disappear into someone else. You are here to stand beside them, as an equal, not a reflection, because true union begins not with 2 halves, but with 2 whole beings who choose to meet again and again. Final digit 3, the voice that dances with the world. If you were born in a year ending in 3, your soul may carry the imprint of expression, imagination, and the need to give voice to what lives inside you. The number 3, across symbolic systems, has long represented the creative spark, the union of opposites giving rise to a third element, something new and unexpected. In Jungian terms, this number reflects the energy of the trickster, the messenger, and at times the child, but not in the sense of immaturity. Rather, the child as the carrier of possibility, the one who brings freshness, curiosity, and unpredictability into a rigid world. People born under the 3 vibration often have a magnetic quality. Their energy wants to move, communicate, connect. They are drawn to language, whether spoken, written, or performed. They may be storytellers, musicians, thinkers, or simply people who can't help but find meaning in every exchange. Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming, whole involves integrating not only our shadow and our strength, but also our playfulness. Those influenced by the number 3 may embody this gift more naturally than most. They are the ones who break the silence, who lighten the mood, who offer insight not through analysis, but through metaphor, humor, and intuition. But the shadow of this archetype is distraction, excess, or emotional avoidance. Because they feel so much, they may avoid stillness. They may move from one idea, one relationship, or one goal to the next, fearing that slowing down would mean being overtaken by something heavier inside. There is a danger of performing life instead of living it. Jung would gently remind this soul. The real message does not come from the noise, but from the silence behind the words. True expression arises not from the need to be heard, but from the willingness to be real. When integrated, those born under this tone become translators of the human spirit. They name what others only feel. They teach us how to move through grief with grace, how to laugh in the dark, how to see patterns in the chaos. They are not here to follow rules. They are here to write new scripts. If this is you, trust the movement inside you. But don't run from stillness. Your gift is not just in what you say. It's in why you say it and who you become when you learn to speak first to yourself. You are here not just to communicate, but to illuminate. Final digit 4. The architect of inner stability. To be born in a year ending in 4 is to carry the vibration of structure, responsibility, and inner architecture. Where the 3 seeks freedom and flow, the 4 seeks form, a sense of solidity in a world that often feels uncertain. Jung often explored the symbolism of the number 4 in sacred geometry and mandalas. For him, it represented wholeness in the material world. 4 directions, 4 elements, 4 functions of consciousness. The number 4 is the foundation, the ground upon which transformation becomes possible. Those born under this number may not seek attention, but they are often the emotional scaffolding of families, friendships, and communities. They build, sometimes in silence. They organize, protect, plan, and hold. Their presence gives shape to others' chaos. There is often a strong sense of duty in these individuals, a feeling that life must be taken seriously, that others depend on them, that things must be done the right way. They may become adults before their time, not because they had to, but because something in them couldn't tolerate disorder. But the shadow of this archetype is rigidity. When 4 energy goes unconscious, it becomes fear, disguised as control. These individuals may cling to routines, systems, or identities that once offered safety, but now limit growth. They may struggle with change, spontaneity, or surrender. Jung would say that the structure must serve the soul, not suppress it. For the soul shaped by 4, the work is to trust that letting go of control does not mean collapse. That flexibility is not weakness, that the most powerful foundations are the ones that can bend without breaking. When integrated, these individuals become the keepers of wisdom in action. They build not just systems, but sanctuaries, not just plans, but peace. They are the ones who show others how to move through the world with integrity, patience, and resilience. If this is your number, know that you are not here to fix everyone. You are not here to carry what was never yours. Your strength is sacred, but your softness is what will make it whole. You are not the wall. You are the one who knows how to build doors where others saw none. Final digit 5, the soul of constant transformation. Those born in a year ending in 5 often carry a restlessness in their spirit, a need to move, change, evolve. The number 5 has long been associated with motion, adaptation, and the tension between freedom and form. In symbolic systems, it sits at the center of the first 9 digits, balancing structure, 4, and chaos, 6, asking us to live fully in the tension of opposites. In Jungian language, this number resonates with the archetype of the rebel, the explorer, or even the initiated one, a soul that is not content with comfort. A psyche that has tasted many lives in one, that refuses to stagnate, and that often must endure repeated death and rebirth of identity. These individuals may change careers, cities, relationships, or belief systems more often than most. Not out of indecision, but out of a deep inner pressure to stay true to what is alive in the moment. They are shapeshifters, but not in the sense of being fake. They evolve because staying the same feels like spiritual suffocation. Jung might say they carry the energy of the individuation process itself, an unfolding journey that demands they confront the unfamiliar, shed old skins, and say goodbye to what no longer fits, even when it breaks their heart. But the shadow of 5 is instability. This constant inner fire, when not grounded, can become recklessness, escapism, or chronic dissatisfaction. These souls may chase change for its own sake, never giving anything enough time to root. They may abandon depth for novelty, or mistake the fear of stillness for a call to move again. For the soul born under 5, the challenge is to learn that freedom does not require chaos, and that movement is most meaningful when it has a center. They are not meant to be caged, but neither are they meant to drift endlessly. When integrated, they become powerful agents of change, guides who help. Others cross thresholds, disrupt stagnant systems, and reimagine what life could be. They bring renewal, creativity, and possibility wherever they go. If you were born in a year ending in 5, know this: you are not lost. You are becoming. Again and again, you were never meant to arrive. You are here to move the world forward by refusing to stay the same. Final digit 6, the guardian of what truly matters. To be born in a year ending in 6 is to carry the energy of devotion, responsibility, and emotional depth. The number 6 is the number of care, of tending to what is fragile, of holding together what might fall apart, of staying close when others walk away. In the symbolic language of Jung, this number echoes the archetype of the protector, the caretaker, or even the sacred heart. These are the individuals who feel responsible, not just for their own lives, but for the well-being of others. From a young age, they may have felt like the emotional anchor in their families, the one others leaned on, or the one who stayed strong when no one else could. Their gift is their empathy, their instinct to nurture, to preserve, to serve. They often have a natural talent for creating safety, whether in physical spaces or emotional bonds. People open up to them, trust them, need them, but this gift can become a burden. The shadow of the 6 energy is over-responsibility. They may carry weight that doesn't belong to them. They may confuse love with sacrifice or safety with control. Jung would say that the person who identifies too strongly with the helper risks becoming split off from their own needs. Those born under this number often struggle with guilt, especially when they try to set boundaries or prioritize themselves. They may stay in relationships or roles long after they've outgrown them, simply because they don't want to hurt anyone. Their challenge is to understand that true care includes self-care, and that no one is served by a heart that's always emptying and never being filled. When this archetype is integrated, they become true guardians, not martyrs, but protectors of what is sacred. They know how to show up with tenderness and power. They model what real commitment looks like, not from obligation, but from deep love. If this is your number, know that your strength lies not in how much you carry, but in how clearly you recognize what is truly yours to hold. You were not born to save everyone. You were born to love wisely, fiercely, and freely, starting with yourself. Final digit 7, the inner visionary. To be born in a year ending in 7 is to carry a soul that is naturally oriented toward depth, mystery, and introspection. This number has long been associated with the spiritual seeker, the one who is not satisfied with surface explanations, who needs to understand what lies beneath appearances. Jung often described the process of individuation as a descent into the unconscious. The number 7 resonates with this exact energy. It represents the path of the hermit, the mystic, or the philosopher, whose journey is inward, reflective, and often solitary. People with this vibration often feel like observers of the world. They may question things that others accept blindly. They may have a rich inner life, a fascination with symbols, or an intuitive sense that there is more to life than what can be measured. Even as children, they may have seemed older than their age, contemplative or emotionally perceptive in ways others couldn't name. But this inward orientation can become a double-edged sword. The shadow of the 7 is isolation, detachment, or disconnection from the body and the moment. These individuals may retreat from life out of fear that the external world is too shallow, too loud, too fake. They may become prisoners of their own thoughts. Jung would remind this soul that wisdom must be embodied, not just known. That insight is powerful, but only when it is shared, lived, and expressed in relationship with others. When integrated, those born under the energy of 7 become visionaries of the soul. They offer new ways of seeing, thinking, and understanding. They are the ones who stay with the question when others rush to answers. They help the world reconnect with meaning. If this is your number, remember, you are not here to escape the world. You are here to pierce through its illusions and then return with what you've found, offering your clarity not from a place of distance, but from presence. You are the lighthouse, not the island. Final digit 8, the alchemist of power. To be born in a year ending in 8 is to carry a soul that knows how to transform energy, whether in the form of matter, emotion, or action. The number 8 is often associated with power, mastery, and manifestation. But in symbolic terms, it also represents karma, balance, and the deeper laws that govern cause and effect. Jung might associate this energy with the archetype of the alchemist, the one who takes raw material, often painful or unwanted, and transmutes it into something valuable. These individuals often go through intense cycles of trial and transformation. They are not afraid of darkness because they intuitively understand that what is unprocessed becomes poison, but what is processed becomes wisdom. People born under the energy of 8 are often natural leaders, not necessarily in title, but in presence. There's a sense of authority about them, a grounded force that others recognize. They may be drawn to roles where they can influence systems, change structures, or build something real. They think in terms of impact. But the shadow of 8 is the misuse of power. Whether that means controlling others, suppressing vulnerability, or being consumed by ambition. These individuals may fear failure so much that they overcompensate with perfectionism or close their hearts in the name of strength. Jung would say, true power is never about domination. It's about integration. For the soul, born under 8, the task is to bring together their ambition and their compassion, their intellect and their intuition, to stop trying to control the world and instead become aligned with the deeper forces that shape it. When integrated, they become catalysts, people who don't just talk about change but embody it. They are the ones who turn wounds into wisdom, anger into purpose, and pressure into transformation. If this is your number, remember, your strength is not in what you achieve, but in what you are willing to transform inside yourself. You are not here to conquer. You are here to transmute. Final digit 9, the soul that is learning to let go. To be born in a year, ending in 9, is to carry the symbolic tone of completion, transition, and surrender. The number 9 is the final digit in the cycle before everything resets. It is the last chapter, the wisdom bearer, the one who understands that life is not just about building, but about letting go with grace. In Jungian terms, this is the energy of the elder, the wounded healer or the psychic midwife, the one who knows how to hold space for endings, for grief, for the unknown. Those born with this vibration often carry an unusual emotional depth. They may be drawn to themes of loss, mortality, or transformation, not because they are pessimistic, but because their soul is tuned to the cycles of life. They know that nothing truly lasts in its original form, and that the greatest power often comes through surrender, not control. People with this imprint may go through many lives in one, reinventing themselves, shedding old versions of who they thought they were. There is something inherently spiritual in their path, even if they never use that word. They are often the ones others come to in moments of crisis because they understand pain and they don't fear it. But the shadow of 9 is over-identification with suffering. These individuals may hold on to guilt, martyrdom, or a sense that they must always be strong for others. They may struggle to receive support or to trust that life can be simple, joyful, light. Jung would remind this soul, the journey is not only about endings, it's also about integration. For the person marked by 9, the task is to release what no longer serves, without losing the parts of themselves that are still longing to bloom. When integrated, they become wisdom carriers, souls who can hold space for complexity, contradiction, and compassion. They are the ones who can help others close doors with love, grieve with dignity, and move forward without denying the past. If you were born under the 9, know this: you are not here to carry everything. You are here to help the world learn how to release, with tenderness, with courage, and with truth. You are not the end. You are the bridge to what comes next. So often, we pass through life without questioning the small details that surround us, the numbers, the dates, the patterns that quietly repeat in the background. But Carl Jung taught us that these details are never random. They are symbols, mirrors, invitations to look deeper. The final digit of your birth year is not your destiny, but it might be a key to understanding your inner rhythm, a key to why certain struggles feel familiar, why certain longings never quite leave, and why your soul feels the way it does when no one is watching. You are not a number. But the number you carry may reflect the story you've been trying to tell your whole life. And now that you've seen it, what will you do with what you've remembered?